Well, as Mr. Naisou here is
Where do I look?
opening anywhere, just look at me. Just look at me, bro. Oh my God.
Are we allowed to show this?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing is not allowed here in this podcast. By the way, Naisou, since we're gonna be having a lot of international viewers, I'm fairly certain that you are comfortable speaking in full English, right?
I'm fully comfortable speaking in English.
Yeah, all right.
Kung gusto mo Tagalog, Tagalog na lang.
So, the AG podcast is back, and as usual, it is very candid. In fact, we are opening a bottle of whiskey.
Do I need to lift it or anything? Or like, what do you want me to do?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you want me to show the camera?
Yeah, you can show it to the camera. That's your.
Dude, I have no nails, bro. Wait.
Yeah.
I have no nails, but I'm going to try to like get this out.
Yeah. The last time that me and Naisou had a conversation that was very deep and very long was also over 2 bottles.
Was it 2?
I think we almost downed the second
it
one.
Was.
It was 2, actually.
That was a 8. Was that an 18?
An 18 and a 12.
We had an 18 and a 12?
Yeah. We're having another 12 now.
I just don't have nails. Sorry. I just,
It's okay, man.
you know.
Honestly. So, AG Podcast is back and it's very candid once again. Smells good.
You want to smell it?
I mean, dude, I have not been doing this for quite a while. It's been 3 months ever since my last recording.
3?
It was 3 months.
Wait, what happened, bro? Like,
Well, TNC happened.
oh, that's right. You've been acting like I don't know. Like, what?
Dude.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, we got
You had
very
to
busy.
coach.
Yeah, I had to coach, and of time. I'm gonna get my.
You got it? Yeah. Is that enough for you?
Yeah. Cheers, bro.
Cheers. Cheers.
To the podcast.
To the HE podcast. Rebirth.
Rebirth.
Is that what we're calling it?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. That's
How it should be.
smooth. That's good.
I can't remember what episode this is already, but yeah. So please bear with me, bear with us, because this will be a rougher ride than usual because I haven't been doing it for quite a while. And I thought that I'll get my trusted dudes to start it again. And Naisou is definitely one of the most trusted ones. The last time we shared a bottle of whiskey, we had a lot of deep talks. And hopefully that will happen again today. Mr. Naisou, are you prepared for some heart-to-heart talks as well?
I am, man.
Today.
I'm Wolf, I've been trying it, The last time we shared a podcast setup was obviously on mine. It's so funny though, because we did that one, and then I was like, then all the momentum never started. But so I'm gonna have you on mine again in the future.
Sure.
But I'm ready, man. Yeah,
we're ready. I think you also have been preparing for a lot of content. You just had moving out when you are independent. How do I say this? Are we independent? We're independent, right?
I would hope so.
I would hope so. Yeah. So we're living alone.
Yeah,
practically, and doing it in the Philippines, where the economy is.
Hey, the economy's messed up everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
That's true.
But the thing is, we're shoutcasters. And now I'm a coach, so at least there's a little bit of stability in there. At least I get a monthly, a monthly salary. And well, I can say this because when I was casting, I didn't really get like a monthly thing.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception. Like a lot of people think casters get a monthly payment.
No, we don't.
We don't. It's not salary based.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm sure people have seen your
your
tweets here and there.
Interesting. I never thought that it will blow up like that. That like some news outlets actually. It's funny, but I'm glad that it brought up a lot of conversations.
It did
afterwards. That wasn't the intended effect, but yeah, I take that. I still feel that organizers will not, they're not gonna be shaking in fear because of that. But at least people will understand casters more?
I think I don't know. The way that I look at it, Wolf, is
Yeah.
it's like whether organizers do anything about it or not, it brings awareness like to the forefront. And I think that was the important thing. Not only that, but without naming specific organizations, it should allow like casters or future casters, hopefully, to make better decisions on like what they want to take or how they handle the contracts and all that stuff, because esports is still, I mean, let's be honest, still very new, right? It's like what is it? It's in its infancy if you compare it to like traditional sports.
True.
So I think actions like that, and it sucks to go through it, like be on that end, but I think it does play a part in shaping what the future is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And just quick advice for all of those who all wanted to delve into esports, particularly shoutcasting. Number one rule: never spend the money that you don't have yet.
Ooh.
Right?
Wisdom.
Yep, that's. I learned that a few years back, and I applied that today, despite having all that drama. I didn't go poor. I didn't go broke. I didn't go hungry.
Yeah.
I was just angry.
You were just angry.
I was just angry that it still happened. That's the thing, right? I think particularly for MSC, what really ignited that tweet for me was that it was a very big thing. And to be
big
fair,
thing how? Like big thing you talking about
because it's MSC.
the event itself.
The event itself has
yeah.
$3 million US prize pool.
Yeah.
And our talent fee is like minuscule of the part of that big event. It was a very big event. It was done in Riyadh.
Yeah.
I was just surprised that it still happened in an event like that. That's it. That was
as prestigious as it was built up, and that it was, right. And I think even we can say this, and everybody knows this. Like we had the highest viewership.
Exactly.
MLBB did. It was the number one viewed. So
exactly.
And then people were. I think that's why people were surprised about. Damn, like the casters were. They had to go through this. They had to deal with this. So
big shout outs to ESL. They kept communicating with me.
Yeah.
Despite the tweet, actually.
I was gonna say we had different experiences, right? Like
that's right.
Mine.
Yeah.
So like, and I don't. I'm not. Can I swear on this?
Of course. Yes, you can. You can.
Okay. I'm not trying to shit on ESL, right? That's not what we're trying to do here. It was really just. I'm sure logistically as well as how many games, how many talents, how many people were involved. It's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
But Wolf is right, and when you have this event of this prestige and it's built up, you just hope by then like all the systems are in place and like you can get paid on time, because when you do that, like people have to understand too. A lot of us that went out there to Riyadh, you give up a lot. Like if you are just a caster and technically you're freelancing a lot of gigs. Yeah. To go to Riyadh for like 2 weeks, some people were there for a month.
Yeah,
you have to give up a lot of that month, and you still got bills to pay.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? Like you give up all these other opportunities for 1 month or however long you were there, and you have bills to pay at home. So when you're thinking, okay, I'm going to get paid this much, but then it comes late, like in your instance, that's really tough to deal with. In my case, I was fortunate enough; I was paid relatively on time, like the time frame.
Exactly. Which is why, I think mine was a separate case. And it's true because they were handling so many talents, so many people.
But there was more from MLBB that got paid around the same time you did, like late.
Yeah, that's right. So again, we're not putting ESL in bad light or MSC or anything. I understand the case. I was just frustrated because everybody got paid faster than I did. Yeah. I think I was second latest.
Second to the last, yeah.
Second to last.
Brother, this isn't even just like EWC though or ESL. That's, like you and I are in the same boat for. We've already put it out there. Games of the future, man.
Future, man.
And I'm sure you saw this too because it kind of irked me, brother. Like when we saw them post, they were already planning their next one and announcing where it was, and I was like, dude, the audacity! Like I have messaged and tried to reach out to them so many times. And then we've gotten nothing, So it's an esports issue. It's not just one, event or organization.
And I've been around esports for quite a long time. Stuff like this happens so many times that when we were starting around what 2016 up until pre-pandemic, up until 2019, 2020. Late fees were very rampant, and then it exploded during 2020 because people were just not getting paid easily because it was the pandemic. And I was fortunate enough to land gigs that pay on time and pay well, they still pay late, but technically they said that we'll pay you after 2 months. They said
they
that
let you know.
They'll let you know. At least I would take that, honestly. And
at least mentally you're prepared.
I am, exactly, because that's the thing recently with Games of the Future and MSC.
Yeah,
they actually gave a date. That's why you expect things to happen like that. Yeah. And although I did not go broke during that moment, it's just difficult to deal with it. I cannot imagine it happening to anybody else, right?
Yeah, especially if you're living and supporting yourself.
Yeah,
you don't have the privilege to count on someone else's money to pay your bills. You know what I mean? So that's why it was such a big effect.
Yeah, and the typical response to that from the caster group. This is the expression is, I hope that the bills also get delayed, which
they don't.
They don't. Due dates, they don't get moved. So it's annoying. But at the same time, again, these are the lessons that I've learned for quite a long time now. I eventually adjusted my lifestyle and my approach to work and career in general to kind of work around that challenge, I guess. So
you do more than casting, though. That's why.
Exactly.
I think all of us do. I would say almost 90% of casters, even at the professional level, they do something else other than just casting.
Exactly.
You kind of have to because of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. It's very sad that it had to happen like that. For example, I had to go take a quote unquote corporate job. You're lucky if there is some tangent, because that's what I initially I didn't have a job to go with my casting that's at least esports tangent. So it's like they're completely different worlds. I'm writing for an SEO company, ghostwriting whatsoever. It's not related at all to esports.
Yeah.
At least in the past years, I'm working with One Esports, which I'm very thankful. And they allow me to be a good caster by expressing myself even more. At least there's a tangent. In your case, there's a little bit of tangent, I guess, or maybe
with what I do?
With what I do outside of casting.
What do you mean? Like, is there?
At least it's related.
I guess in a way, it really depends. Like, because I'm assuming you're talking about voiceover work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so with the voiceover work, it really depends. Just because I think at this point, so I've been freelancing now for 2 years. I think 2 years it's been.
Together with casting, you mean?
Yeah, with casting. So I'm in my third year of casting. I'm almost done with my third year of casting. I started freelancing after 1 year of casting because I wanted to give a whole year of 100% focus to casting. And then I'm glad that I was in mentally, I was like, when I started seeing how esports was and, how some of the payments would be, I was like, I got to do something else to supplement this. And that's when I got into freelancing. So essentially, I would say it does have some connection, obviously still using your voice and whatnot, but I've done everything from like audiobooks to documentaries to like just voiceovers in general that you hear on YouTube all the time. And some of those happen to be for gaming niches, or some of them happen to be for crime stuff, and some of them have been religious. Yeah. Like I've done, religious reads and stuff like that. So it all kind of just depends on the clients. But I'm fortunate enough. I think up to this point, I've worked with over 50 clients globally.
Wow. Congrats.
And recently, I actually worked with some of the people over from TNC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah, I think it's still in the works right now. But the voiceover is done, so it was great.
All right. NDA. But yeah, I think the point that we're getting at is that at least in my case, it's still one esports, which is still esports, and the learnings that I have from casting can still be applied in that area, and the learnings that I get from one esports can also be applied. At least there's a little bit of a symbiosis, between that. But some casters, there was a time I think. If I'm not mistaken, like Burrito, for example, had to go through a BPO, was working in the BPO industry before that. I think Papa Kulas as well. Manjin used to work as a graphics editor during his young days as a shoutcaster before he went full-time. Because again, when we were starting out, the pay was not only delayed so much, it's also not sufficient.
It was much smaller. It was Jollibee sometimes, right?
Yeah. I remember. Just to share, the worst payment delay that I've gotten. And this is not even counting the ones that I never got paid.
Yeah.
Which actually happened before many times. The worst one was it was late for 2 years, almost 2 years. And because it was 2 years back, remember, due to inflation and the fact that the rates were very low, 2 years prior to receiving that, it didn't feel like anything when I received it. Back then, when we were promised that amount, it felt big. It's like, oh, this is the best gig that I'll ever get.
2 years later.
And 2 years later, man, what's this? Yeah, and it wasn't much. Fun times. I don't want to ever go back to those moments.
We're not doing a very good job at building up being a caster. Our career,
that's true. That's also true. Which was, but this is just
it's a reality.
It's a reality, and it's better that you know about this before you started than when you actually started. I
think
it's much better today. Honestly, I think MSC was an isolated case. To be fair, but still find a 9-to-5 that puts food on the table. Casting should be like a bonus.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I think like if you aspire to be a caster, or maybe you guys are watching this and you aspire to be, in our position or whatever, it's a good goal to have. But I think if you're a realist, you got to have something else to go with it. There's no. I am a firm believer though, Wolf, in like taking risks and whatnot. So like, I wouldn't say like no one should go and give it their all into casting for like a year. Like if you are just starting up and you want to give your all for casting for a year and that's all you want to focus on, do that. Especially if you're young. Like especially if you're younger, take that risk, do it. But also know that there's a very small chance. I think even if you consider where we are as casters and what we've been able to do, like we're a very small percentage. I would say even the 1% or less. If you took all the casters around the world, there's hundreds, if not thousands, already in the Philippines alone, right?
Yeah,
that are trying to get to a certain degree. And I think so. Even if you're in our case, and we're telling you this, like that's just how much more growth needs to happen for this career specifically.
There were so many casters that had to stop casting just because they already know that it's not as sustainable as that started before, and I think that eventually most of there will be an interesting amount of shoutcaster that of right now that might even consider stopping from shoutcasting.
Yeah,
I kind of started that.
I was gonna say, how do you? Tell us.
Well, it's mainly because of that.
What was the driving? I don't know if you've ever talked about this, but what was the driving force for that decision to go from caster to coach?
And I think there were so many disappointments that happened with our career in general because the main driving force was health for me.
Health, right?
Health. And because health is related to like physically being a shoutcaster, and at the same time, your mental health, where you have to really take care of your bills, which is very important. To me, when you're a shoutcaster and you want this kind of lifestyle, you want to sustain it, you want to be the best shoutcaster.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that you have to look presentable. Number one, your mind should be in a very good place. So you have to have sustainable amount of sleep. At the same time, you have to study.
Yeah.
I know myself. I will not go to an event without preparation. So I just know myself that I'll probably dig deeper than most people would. So that's a problem. And in order for you to become a good shoutcaster as well, you have to really put in the work. Like you have to cast a lot, right? I don't believe that you can just get into a table and
can't just sit there and
sit there. Yeah. So I remember when I was flying a lot, and you know this because I have this condition. Unfortunately, there were times that I had to be escorted through with a wheelchair.
Wheelchair, yeah. You need the assistance in the airport.
Yeah. And then I was walking a lot, and I was like, man, maybe 3 years ago I could have done this more, but I think I'm starting to feel my own body saying that you gotta have to stop a bit, you know.
EWC, I remember.
Yeah.
You were there every day, standing, man.
Yeah.
You know.
I had to not go to MWI because I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah.
You were supposed to go, right?
Yeah,
like you were supposed to do MWI.
But I physically cannot
but
anymore.
You physically couldn't.
I already felt it about 3 days of 3 days before MSC ended. So that's part of it. But the biggest driving force was because shoutcasting, although you can really just do it alone, in order for you to be good at shoutcasting, you have to really put in more effort. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but for me, I had to watch more games, or or stay up all night, do the stats, work on my craft, whatever. And it kind of meant that if you're gonna be doing a broadcast for 3 days during the weekends, you not only lose your weekend, but you also
you gotta prep for it.
You have to prepare for it, and then we do that because shoutcasting does not pay that well. You have to do something during the weekdays, which.
So are you saying you felt burnt out? Like,
yeah, definitely
burnt out,
and the fact that we're not getting treated properly, I guess.
Yeah.
That is I guess that's too much for an older guy like me, you know, like a vet.
Yeah. It's, and I guess like in my case, because I'm still relatively new, I feel like I am because it's only my 3rd year.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say like and I'm also just generally a patient guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was patient for a lot of these things, but even now, and because you started this too, like you become more comfortable like talking about like some of the stuff here, right? And hoping that again it'll bring some positive change, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see how you would say like you feel burnt out, because I've had my moments this year where I felt like that, like, and you know, to again, super grateful to have this as a job. Like let's put that out there. Like,
of course,
it's amazing to be able to do this.
Yeah. But
because of the environment that it is and the things it asks from you as a person, like if you're trying to be your best, like that's it. It could be completely different with what you're saying if you're like, I'm fine being mediocre.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna go sit at the desk, do my thing, leave. Like clock in, clock out. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
What I that's why I want to reiterate this, because what you're saying is like you want to be that 1%, like you want to be that top percent caster. So it requires so much more from you than just going and sitting on the desk, commentating a game and leaving. Like there's so much behind the scenes stuff that I think happens here that people don't realize. And then so on top of that, what also makes you feel burnt out is because you have to usually supplement the income on a monthly basis, especially if you're living by yourself.
Exactly.
That's the whole other caveat here. So you're doing work on top of all that prep and the show itself within the week. And when people ask you, you must have a lot of free time. You're just like, not really.
No,
I don't.
What is free time? But you know, for example, when I started my podcasts, although I thought about it, because when you're shoutcasting, you want to market yourself. You're the product, basically.
You're a brand,
You're a brand, you're a product, and you have to find ways for event organizers to notice you. Like even when I am already a vet, like an all timer, I was an all timer.
OG?
I was an OG. I still feel that because outside of MPL work is also very important for you to sustain yourself, because MPL only happens 2 months, 4 months in total.
Yeah,
in
2
a year.
seasons a year. Yeah.
So what do you do afterwards, right? That's even a bigger question for us.
Yeah.
So that's another that's a even bigger challenge for full-time shoutcasters. So for me, in order for me to get and land those jobs outside of MPL, I have to market myself. And unfortunately, I'm not a funny guy. I'm not a comedic guy. You know, I'm not those.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm funny to some people, I guess, to select amount of people. And the thing is, I have to, you have to really make content if you want to make it out there. Unfortunately,
I think that's the nature now, man.
That's the nature now. That's why, again, because I don't watch vlogs or don't consume vlogs as much as you would, I didn't make any vlog. I didn't make content that I do not consume. But I consume podcasts. That's why I made podcasts.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was part of the shoutcasting job. That's how I treated podcasting.
Yeah, but it's had a positive effect on your overall career. Like
exactly.
How many hundreds of thousands of views in total has the podcast had already?
I think we eclipsed the 2 million before when I stopped. So which is thank you all. Thank you all.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Dude, and this guy helped me through that. Through everything, dude. And he literally reminded me to monetize stuff.
I just gave you the push that you needed, Wolf. Like,
Thanks, man.
I am a huge consumer of podcasts. And so like I when you said, you want to do one, and of course like your niche for the longest time was focusing within the ecosystem of like, MLBB in general.
Yeah.
And it grew into, I think, much bigger than you even expected.
Definitely.
Like it
100 million %. Yes.
And it's great that like, again, when you go into a podcast and you have like this niche that you can fill and you can focus on, and you're right, it builds this brand for you, because not only now do you have, you as a caster, but people also know you as having a podcast, right? Which is a platform in itself. So I completely get that. And I think it's something that if people want to go into certain fields, creative fields like this, or what have you, you almost have to have a brand, and that's why there's like content creators, there's influencers and everything like that. And really, if that's the path you choose, you're not going to get too far nowadays if you don't have like a brand and some form of a following and content that you're putting out. I was the same way as you, by the way. Like I'm not a huge vlog watcher.
Yeah.
I only literally, to be honest, I only watch one vlog for one person. And actually recently just posted this on my story. It was C-Bum, the bodybuilder. Chris Bumstead. He's a 6-time Olympic champion. He just got his 6th championship. He just retired. He's the only guy that I actually, until this day, for years now, I always watch his latest vlogs. And it's not even for his workouts. Like, he's just a cool, humble guy. And he kind of epitomizes and inspires me to basically just be a better man. Like, he's as a man figure, he, like, people joke and call him Daddy C-Bum, but I think he was kind of this dad figure for a lot of people.
Cool.
I love my dad. I have a great relationship with my dad. But even when I was growing up, there was stuff that my dad couldn't pass down to me because he was just so busy. Being in the military, and just kind of growing up through the years of my later mid 20s, late 20s, watching C-Bum. I met him in person too when he first started competing when I was still in the U.S. And so to see him go through all this stuff, and like now he's a dad. He's an actual dad now. He just had a kid. He's one of the few people that I like tune in to watch their vlogs just because of who he is and who he symbolizes as a man. And I think it's very valuable, especially for the young men in today's age with everything going on, to have like this figure that they can look up to. But going back to the point, I don't usually consume vlogs, so I never did them. I did them for the first time over in EWC, and it felt super weird because our good friend Mirko, he does vlogs all the time.
Exactly.
Right, and I think it does take a certain person to be able to do a vlog.
Yes,
and
I
make
agree.
it entertaining, and then like make it good. And there's also different styles of vlogs too, right? But yeah, I get that because I would also rather just have kind of like a podcast and just
Yeah.
talk and
Yeah.
kind of shoot the shit with people.
Yeah, there was a time where I used to, and this is a, by the way, this is my always my advice to aspiring analysts for a broadcast. Make your own analytic content because that's where I started with. I think the techniques that I used in the on the broadcast itself, like literally the words that the way that I present the ideas started with what I was doing with analytic content in MLBB, which was Galawang Top Global back then. So
That was your first? I was going to ask you, what was
Yeah,
your
that
first
was-
analytical content?
there was a lot when I was doing Dota 2, but I think the actual I would say that that I really count as content because
Yeah.
it's like
Was
more
it a series?
structured.
Yeah.
It went to 15 episodes in a year, which is already pretty impressive for me
Yeah.
because I don't do a lot of content.
Episode a month-ish.
Yeah.
Plus some.
Yes, exactly. So
What was it called? What was it called?
Galawang Top Global.
Galawang Top Global. So
Yeah.
that means how top globals move.
Exactly.
Right? Something like that.
Play. Yeah.
How they
Because
play.
back then, being top global was everything for players.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I learned a lot about speaking and delivering your thoughts in a specific amount of time because of that. And I would say that I became a better analyst because I already had practice outside the broadcast, right?
Yeah.
If you get my meaning. So I was doing that. I was doing this content, the podcast, all because I want to be a good shoutcaster. I even got to a point where I joined a pro team just so I can become a better analyst at the desk.
Yeah.
That happened for. So I hope that you understand where I'm getting and why I stopped casting for a while, because I know myself so much that I know that I will not stop until I become real good, you know?
Yeah. And so you went to coach TNC, and
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna ask you this here, man. Like, because I'm really curious. Like,
Yeah.
we know you didn't have the best season. It was
Yeah.
not what you wanted. It was probably not what the org wanted.
Yeah.
How are you?
Man, I'm depressed. No, just kidding. No. I mean, like, it was the past, because as we were recording this was a week after
After
MPL, right? Regular season.
week and a half or so.
Week and a half.
Yeah.
The first 5 days was horrible,
Yeah.
but I know how to put up a mask and show everyone. But
I
times-
read the articles, by the way. That's why I'm asking you, because I read some of
Yeah.
the articles that were put out where they asked you about it.
Yeah, I sincerely feel that way. Like, I hope that I think I'm more concerned about the careers of the kids than
Yeah.
my own career, because well, I can just go back to shoutcasting, technically speaking. So I probably can work my way out of it. Maybe I'll just go to the mountains and maybe start a guitar shop, whatever. I probably can figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But these are kids, and the fact that they had to go through that and they had this record,
Yeah.
which they definitely don't deserve. I know it because I've handled them for quite a time. They did not deserve to lose like that and to have that record. People will always look at the fact that this was the TNC. All of the players that performed like this did not win a series. Why would we take them as our players, right?
Yeah.
So that's I'm more concerned about them. I think I'm sad, but sometimes I get reminded. I remember we went to the grocery store after that day.
Like, as a team?
No, like some of the, I think it was me at the Max and two from our management, because we want to drink after.
Uh-huh.
So instead of going to a bar, which is even more depressing and
Yeah.
of course more expensive, we went to the grocery store. I see zero in everywhere, like Coke Zero. I see zero sugar,
Just
zero.
triggering.
Like it just triggers me a lot.
0% off.
0% off. Like all of those 0% interest, everything that's related
Yeah.
to zero, it triggers me. But I think right now, I have my ways to cope with, things like
Guitar.
guitar for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a recital tomorrow.
A recital?
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And then I also can do podcasts, so at least I get to talk to people.
These are in the shots, right? Like all the
Yeah.
guitars.
Yeah, not all, but yeah, they, yeah,
You literally have like 10 guitars here,
yeah,
dude.
give or take. But yeah,
Says the guy who hasn't gotten paid. He's got 10 guitars.
yeah. So you would imagine there are so many ways for me to kind of forget about that, but at the same time, I should not how to say this. I should always keep that in mind. Like yeah, I I have this habit of making stuff like this as more of a driving force than it is it, I mentioned in the article that because they interviewed how are you feeling right now,
Yeah.
and my first response was all of the 014 record made me just want to start over again, like literally tomorrow. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
So there's no English word for giggle, right? No one.
No, giggle, I just think is like cute aggression. I don't know. Like,
Cute
there's
aggression.
no specific.
You're passionate, or
Yeah.
yeah. So I felt giggle right after, and I just want to start over again. So if you were gonna ask me, I'm okay, dude. I'm okay. I think
You're
I'm
okay.
generally okay. I'm not. I'm not turning insane. I'm not. There was a time where I didn't have any appetite,
Yeah.
but right now it's back. So
That's
I think
good.
I'm generally in a good mental space now. Yeah. So I'm fine. Thank you for asking. But you are the guest of this podcast.
No, sometimes I just have to ask. You know, I know.
dude. No, how are things, man? Like that was a 30-minute intro that we talked off topic.
Yeah.
But how are things, my man? You've been traveling around the world.
I have.
What? Man, that must be crazy.
By the way, real quick, we can throw this snippet in here. I apologize if I cough a little bit. You know, I'm getting over a cold. I'm not sick right now, but getting over that. And thankfully, because towards the end of it, I just got done with the M6 Myanmar qualifier.
Yeah.
Yesterday, actually. We did an online cast for that, and that was with Mirko and Mo Man from MPL Singapore, who... Again, he just got best talent.
Cool.
MPL Singapore. So congratulations to him.
So that went 7 games, right?
Yes, their grand final 7 games. It was a classic Mythic Seal, Falcon
Yeah.
Esports. Mythic Seal threw that game. Like they should have won, but Falcon Esports ended up winning.
Yeah. I'm very happy about all these casters are getting all international gigs, most particularly yourself, OSX. Renmar, when I think it was this year or last year where he was also like flying around places.
Yeah. Dan went to where did he go?
Dan,
like Kazakhstan or
exactly,
something like that?
like-
he went so I forgot what it was for. Was
Yeah.
it one XBet or something like that?
What was that tournament? Yeah, but I remember that.
Yeah.
But he was hosting for that one, and like you will never imagine like an event
All the way out there.
all the way out there. I remember when the second episode of this podcast was because you and OSX were flying a lot too.
That was
Remember,
wow.
that was
that the
Riyadh.
second episode?
That was the second
Yeah, that was
episode.
Riyadh last year for ISF.
ASF. And even then, we thought that we are already like breaking boundaries and and whatnot for shoutcasting. And then lo and behold, 2024, you were flying all around, man.
Yeah, 2024 has been crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
It makes me want to ask because here's the thing. It's a totally different experience for me. The first international flight that I got because of casting was Malaysia back in 2017 for a Dota 2 event.
Dota
right?
2, okay.
And then followed up by 2018. And then it's like 2017, 2018, 2019, up until 2020, I experienced flying once every year, and I'm very proud of it. I always make it my goal to fly out as a shoutcaster at least once a year,
Once a year, yeah.
or even at most. Like I'm already happy. And then 2022, I think came, or was it 2023? That was last year, where I was flying 3 countries in a month.
Yeah.
And I felt like, man, this is so much. This is not at all. It looks really good on paper, but it's
It's tiring.
right? It's tiring. So my experience was, okay, man, I want to dial it down. I mean, I would love to fly around more, but in reality, I'm just going to a hotel and the studio. I'm not actually exploring around.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt about it? Because that's how I definitely felt about it. It's not a vacation. It looks good on paper, sure, and I'm very happy. I'm gonna take any gig that will fly me out again, but at a certain point, it becomes very difficult, right? Did you ever feel that way, or was it a different experience for you?
It is. It is very like it's work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when we fly out for these events, it's work. I will say that the only time that I really didn't feel like that was actually in EWC. The reason being, even though we spent most of our time between the hotel and the venue,
Yeah.
I really appreciated the fact that EWC had a talent lounge.
Yeah.
We spent many nights
Oh yeah.
in there.
We did.
And
That's right.
even Mangine, like
Yeah.
so I thought that was really cool because it gave you a space to feel like, all right, this doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And it gave you a decompressing area to like, yeah, just literally that decompress,
right.
relax a little bit. And that meant like, and it was really cool because it was for the talent lounge, it was where a place they had PC setups, they had a bunch of snacks and drinks and couches and stuff there. And all the talents from different games they'd all be in there, either studying or playing or whatever they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so that was probably one of the only times that I really felt like, wow, okay, this doesn't feel like just pure work, hotel, venue. And it was a very good bonding experience, I think, for everyone too.
It was.
I know you were part of that where you guys were down there playing Dota 2, I think,
Exactly.
tonight with Mangine.
Yeah.
And I was down there playing like Valorant,
Yeah.
or we were all sometimes playing MLBB, and
Yeah.
then you were intermingling with like talent who, for some people, that was like their idols.
Exactly.
Like, whoa, like that was probably the biggest just thing for me was like, dude, we're chilling with some of these people we've been watching for years.
Exactly.
I know it was way bigger for you guys though too, because you're
was,
big
it
into
was.
Dota.
Yeah.
And those guys were there. But even for me, I was like, wow, this is insane.
A great memory that I will never forget is when Fogged, absolutely my personal idol and also one of the shotcasters that I look up to when it comes to Dota 2. He also remembered me because we worked before, and it was very nice. He was coaching us
In Dota.
Dota.
Yeah, I remember that. I was there.
It was funny, and then all of a sudden, you two were talking
Yeah.
about
We were talking about World of Warcraft. Yeah.
It was
World of
crazy
Warcraft.
because the world suddenly got very small,
So small, yeah.
Because you I think you live in the same. Was
we
he living-
lived in, like, not the same area, but like in a same, like close states within each other.
Okay,
yeah.
But you guys know a lot of stuff that like
Yeah.
Which is
And yeah, it was crazy.
surreal, and you'll realize that they're just as that we are probably doing the same thing as international casters would, right? We play,
Yep.
we joke around. It just felt really nice.
Yeah,
I
it was very nice. So aside from that, to answer
Yeah.
your question, it really does feel like work. Like when you travel,
Yeah.
for all these events, and you go from hotel to venue, and that's kind of what it is. It's a full. Even if you're gone for a week or two, you might get, if you're lucky, one day to kind of like explore and do stuff. But I think some people, like a handful of people, just don't because like they're tired, or they want to prepare.
Yeah,
like it
that's-
depends when that day off is. And that's why I got to give a big shout out to ISF when they sent us to Romania last year because they flew us in a week before the event.
Wow.
So we had a whole week
To enjoy.
So that was probably the only other time that I was like, damn, all right, like this is cool. Like we actually get to explore, do things and everything else. And then we still had, because usually prep for me at least is like a day or two because I do it a little bit leading up to the event anyway.
Yeah.
But before the actual event starts, you still had a day or two to go ahead and do that. So you had a whole week to roam around.
Yeah. Makes me think, right? And this is an interesting story because there was this guy that I really look up to when I was starting casting. His name is Merlini. It was one of the legit OGs of the scene. And I remember back in 2018 or 2019, or maybe even earlier than that, probably 2018. All of a sudden, he announced his retirement from shoutcasting. Imagine he's like the biggest, like literally grand finals all the time analyst.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of the events. And he all of a sudden posted, it was tweet longer back then.
Tweet longer, yep.
Yeah. Those
Long
days.
tweet.
Yeah. And
Is that still a thing?
I'm not sure.
X longer? Is it called X longer?
I don't know. I think you just do threads now. Like
that's right.
You comment after another. But yeah, so the summary of his very long explanation why he decided to quit casting is that because he felt like flying to events constantly does not allow him to live his life. Essentially,
Yeah.
he wanted to raise a dog, for example, and literally all they do back in 2017, 2018 was fly to the country, get to the hotel, do rehearsals, sometimes event immediately when you fly out, and then right after the event fly out. I experienced actually, did you ever experience that? Like for example, the event ends around 10 p.m.
The next morning you're flying out?
Flying out.
Yeah.
Happened a lot, right?
Yeah.
So that happened more often back then in Dota 2, which he felt like it was insane. Like it, from outside looking in, you would feel that, they're probably having the best days of their lives. But again, I'm not complaining when I was doing that, but that's what, eventually that's what I felt. And now, when I got older into shoutcasting, I understood him more why he decided to quit casting. Yeah,
I think for me, this was the year that I had the most like travel, and again, I was super grateful for it. But I realized this year, like, holy crap! Like, it's also difficult. Like, part of the stress was actually just me stressing about like, I hope I don't get sick. Like another part of that though is because every time I travel, me still doing voiceovers, I bring a setup with me to be able to do voiceovers for my clients. So not only am I doing the event itself, but I'm also in the hotel room doing voiceovers for my clients. You know what I mean? So that was a thing. But the hard part was actually going and doing an event, coming back and going straight into something else.
Yes.
And
exactly.
sometimes going into something else doesn't mean the same time zone. Like sometimes you're working in a different time zone.
Dude, week 2 of MPL, we're jet lagged, right?
Yeah. We were jet lagged. And then before EWC, I was casting online for like Americas. So I was casting in Philippine time. I was casting from midnight to 6 or 7 a.m.
Oh, dude.
And that was all the way until the week before we flew to EWC. Like I finished the cast, and I think literally the next day, I had to go to the airport.
Oh my God.
And it hasn't stopped since then. Like it's been that way since, I don't know, when was that? Like April, May. Like and it's going to be this way until whenever M6 is over.
Yeah.
Middle December.
And congratulations for, I don't know if you're part of M6 yet, but I would assume
the video's out. Like by the time this comes out, the Swiss format video that we went and shot in Malaysia is there, and so it's pretty like that's a soft launch for part of the talent pool. That's not everybody. So I'm gonna be there in M6.
Yeah, great. All right. No, I think you definitely deserve it, especially with what you have been doing for the past year. So. Definitely congrats. What I felt was the biggest challenge when I was flying around Southeast Asia last year and earlier this year was the fact that I live in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Number one, which meant worst airport. Literally, we're the worst. I think we're rank 1 or 2 worst airport in the world. That meant that you need to be at the airport 3 hours?
3 hours before.
Yeah. Are you still doing the 3 hours?
Yeah.
All right, so everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah. And interestingly, when you get there 3 hours ahead, you'll find yourself just on time to board, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's why when I started flying out, I never really prepared for it in a way that I thought that I'll probably just sleep, waiting for the... But I learned that you cannot do that. You have to be fully energized when you're flying. Not only that, you have to travel an hour or two from your house to the airport.
Yeah.
So that's 5 hours lead time
5 hours lead time. Yeah.
before the actual flight. And then you're gonna be walking around. You're gonna be flying 4 hours, another 4 hours.
Yeah, depending where you're going. Yeah.
Depending where you're going. And then that's already practically you are losing literally a day.
Yeah.
That's why, do you know that before Dota 2 casters have flight pay?
So they get paid when they fly?
They get paid during their flight dates.
Damn, that must feel good.
I think that is, at this point, very natural. Because, again, you cannot do anything during that day that you're flying. Unfortunately, because we live in the Philippines, we had to spend a day.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be packing, whatever. Packing takes, a day, another day. That's a different beast of its own. And then when you're flying constantly, you haven't really washed your clothes yet. Did you experience that? Because I experienced that so much that a different set of clothes is for this flight and a different set for another flight.
So when I have long international flights, I'll wear comfortable clothing, right?
Yeah.
But I always usually have a backpack with me.
Yeah.
And I'll have at the very least, a change of t-shirt and underwear. Because there are some airports, again, this is with the fact that sometimes you might be going a super far distance.
Yeah.
But most big international connecting airports have a shower.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you can actually I like to pack stuff into my backpack that I can change into.
Yeah.
But if it's a short flight, and by short flight I mean anything under 6 hours, you one set of clothing, you get to the hotel, you take a shower right away.
Yeah. That happens. But yeah, that's some of the tricks that we have to learn. We obviously didn't know about that when you first started, but eventually you
Well, I've traveled. I mean, in my case, I've traveled a lot.
yeah.
Growing up in a military family.
That's why.
Every year we would go from the U.S. to the Philippines, even.
Yeah,
So,
but I think it goes without saying that flying would essentially take one entire day, even if it's just Southeast Asia.
yeah.
Um,
You know what's funny? On the point of flying here, and this was actually with EWC because I think it was Joshy Cakes. He was sharing that was his first time flying.
oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I always forget that there are some people that just haven't flown before or gone through the airport and everything like that. And I remember even for Brigida was with Joshy Cakes at the time. She had flown out before, but just not often, right? It had been a long time. And so for the people that are fortunate enough to just fly every year, multiple times a year, it almost just becomes a normal thing. You have this routine when it comes to flights.
Exactly.
So it was kind of fun to see a perspective of someone who hadn't flown or barely flown, and to hear their side of things, and maybe some people listening to this will think that too. You know what? And I think that's why it's a big step when people take that step when they start to go to their, independence. And I know it takes a little bit longer here in the Philippines, but when they're I'm going on my first solo flight.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go, here for the first time. I think those are really big, important moments in someone's life. Sure.
Do you remember your first international cast?
First international cast? Yeah, I'll never forget it, man.
I mean, me too. What was it for you?
MSC 2022.
Oh, yeah.
Malaysia. I was nervous as hell.
Oh, were you really? I remember though that, and I remember because it was between S9 and S10, right?
Yeah.
So I was casting with you many times during season 9. You started season 8, right?
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of time together in season 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then you casted for MSC. I remember this, and I think I told you about this, and I told Aislinn about this as well, and many other casters. You transformed. I think there was a big. I don't know what happened. I think it was almost like a hyperbolic time chamber of you being. I think let's just say if you're just when you were MC, if you're level 50, you went up straight level 70, just like that in just one event.
Yeah.
What happened? If you remember.
Oh man. Going into MSC 2022, I had 2 seasons under my belt at that time, I think, and I was really giving myself the time to figure out who I was as a caster. And when I went into MSC 2022, I didn't have that answer yet. Like, I didn't know who I was as a caster. I had the foundations, I felt like. And again, this is coming from someone who my very first cast was an MPL match. MPL Season 8 was my very first cast. So, like, the experience that I had was, very... Like, I sucked everything in, all the knowledge that I could from all you guys in MPL Philippines for those 2 seasons. And then when I finally got to an international event, and mind you, I was watching these guys like Gideon Lafell, Mirko, all of them before I was even a caster, before I even had the opportunity to join Caster Search. And so I went into my first international event the same way. Like, let me go in here and just learn.
Yeah.
And I think that was like having that mental state of not going in there thinking I'm, better than everyone, obviously, because I knew I wasn't. Like, I went in with the mindset of, this is a great opportunity to show who I am as a caster, but also to learn from all these OGs, experienced guys, and everything else. And so that's kind of how I treated it. And I like the international events because you really get to learn from everybody. And that's one of the great things that the MPL Philippine casters taught me was that, number one, just listen.
Yeah.
And like that rule always stuck with me. Like, just listen, like actually actively listen. Because I think some people like confuse that. They're like, I'm listening, but they're not actually actively listening.
That's right.
So
they're hearing, but
they're hearing, but they're not like actually comprehending, right?
Yeah.
So, going into that event, learning all that I did, and then getting the opportunity to cast with people with way more experience, it made me rise to the occasion. And that's why I feel like, even for myself, when I look back on it, I was like, dude, damn, that was a huge like jump in casting for me.
And I mean, I wasn't. It's not like you sucked before that, but it's like you just transformed. I think that's a term that I'll use. It kind of felt like Naisou is more comfortable. Naisou has even more techniques that he was employing, and your growth didn't stop ever since.
I knew who I was I knew who I was as Naisou as a caster after my first international
That's
event.
cool. I remember my first one was also a big awakening for me because again, I think it's
When was your first? Like
2017 was it was
Dota.
called ROG Masters. Yeah, it was Dota 2, and I was just a panel member. I didn't get a cast.
When was your first MLBB international?
So this
Be an M series?
this was M1.
Oof.
Okay.
OG.
And the story there was you probably know about this story, right? But maybe some of the other viewers don't know. But essentially, M1, me and Manjin paid for our flights, for our accommodation.
Yeah. Where did you guys go again for this? Was it
Malaysia.
That's right.
That's why if for some miracle I get invited to Axiata Arena, that will be great. Me and Manjin.
Full circle.
Full circle for sure. So we again, this wasn't the fault of the organizers because back then MLBB wasn't big enough yet because
it was like the
first one.
First one, yeah.
And usually local organizers, they'll just probably get their English speaking casters to cast for MLBB. And I think eventually they ran out of people that know MLBB enough. And me and Manjin, we believe in ourselves so much. We know the organizer. We thought like we offered ourselves like pay us local rate for whatever you're going to be paying your English casters anyways.
Yeah.
We'll fly ourselves. You don't have to worry about it. So it was one of those casts where I forced myself into, and I'm glad I did.
It started from there, right?
Yeah. The thing is, I think we spent about, back then flights were not crazy. So I think in total we spent like 30K each.
30K?
With accommodation and food.
For how long?
7 days.
Oh, wait. Well, the flight would probably be like 10K at least,
Yeah,
right?
because it was a little bit rushed.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now, 30K will only bring you just flight right now.
To Malaysia? No,
Malaysia.
It's cheaper, right?
It's cheaper if you book in advance. But that was like maybe 2 weeks before the event.
Okay.
Again, seat sales will make it easier.
Yeah.
But back then, I think we did spend we had because we had to pay for accommodation and
And
transpo
food, like, did
and
you guys have to
food.
pay?
We ate during the event, but outside
Okay.
of it we had to.
Did you guys come out even, or did
Yes.
you did?
We
Or
did
you
come out
didn't
even. I think I gained what 3K net 3K
Word.
thousand pesos.
But the experience.
The experience. I will not. I will. If I were given a chance to do it again, I will do it 10 times even more, even without breaking even. And the thing is, we're technically not breaking even back then because you get paid about 2 months after. So
Yeah.
we're practically.
Yeah.
So it was an investment, but again, a very worth it, I guess. No, investment. That was the first one with MLBB. I very remember Icy Baby and Gideon arguing about, which was great. I think it was an healthy argument because it was
About the game.
about the game. It was
Okay.
about the game. They argued so much that they had to go 1v1 inside the game, in the game, just to prove their point. That's how, and that made me feel like international casting is a totally different beast because you
Yeah, it
have
is.
to perform at a certain level and prove yourself more than you would in a local broadcast. I
Yeah.
feel. What was the difference when it comes to international? What's the difference in terms of like preparation for international casting and local casting? Or did you ever get to the point where it's different now, or do you treat it the same way?
I think the biggest difference I can say now that I've done multiple is tailoring your expectations, number one, because not every international cast is going to be at a certain standard of what you're used to. And you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm talking more so like on the production or the way
Right.
that the communication is between them. Like a perfect example of this is when we went out to South Africa, for ISF's African Championships. They were very new, and the setup was different. Maybe the environment was different. The calls from the director might be handled a little differently.
Yes.
So like being flexible enough, like being in that mind state to being flexible enough to whatever happens, I'm going to be good enough and a professional enough to adjust to it is the biggest thing. Because if you are not in that mindset, those changes from region to region, from international to international, could tilt you. Like if you're not mentally there. Other than that, like literally the only thing I would say is if it's an international event, the only different approach to it is you have to really familiarize yourself with some of the regions or teams or players that maybe you don't know as much of.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, like something like that, like for example, the wild card, there's teams there that might be showing up for the first time, so you really have to like dig deep into research. Whereas regionally for MPLs, especially when you've done it for seasons, multiple seasons, you kind of have like this, saved bank information in your head already.
sure.
And you have storylines that have developed over time that you've been a part of and new ones happening. So you're just more obviously knowledgeable about the regional stuff, I would say. But, you try to even bring that to the international level. You try to treat even the teams that don't have as much experience or history still with that respect of, I'm going to do my due diligence as a caster to say things to bring to broadcast to also like enlighten the audience.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the main point, is like really just highlighting, their journeys, their paths, these players, these organizations and teams from different parts of the world that are still growing. And, more so than it just being like, oh yeah, here's a match between a team that you guys do know and you don't know.
Yeah.
I think that, and part of that as casters, and you and I both know this very well, that's why I really appreciate the script writers and the people behind the scenes that help us with like
That's
the
right.
scripting, the storylines, the players and stuff, because it's all part of a team. Like it's a big team effort to help them come together for that.
Yeah. There was a time where script writers were the thing.
Yeah. We're not talking about the script of the game, guys. We're not
Yeah,
talking
we're-
about like all scripted.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
no,
like-
yeah. We're just talking about like the spiels, for example. Yeah. Like before, you usually just do it between you casters. I
Yeah.
still think you still do it, right? I think up until now, even with like because you've been doing a lot of international casting, for sure you would not have enough time to actually like sit down and discuss
Yeah.
the metagame, the storylines. But I still feel like you still do, right? At a certain capacity.
There's a certain capacity. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's, you only have so much time and stuff, but
Yeah.
like everybody does something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one very you know, it's always taken for granted. Like, shoutcasters will spend extra days unpaid because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to appear like you don't want to appear dumb.
Yeah. You
on
don't want to,
stage.
you don't want to be an idiot on the
wanna-
desk, basically.
exactly.
Be like, what is this guy talking about? You
Yeah.
know?
And I think based on my experience, there hasn't been any group of casters in MOBB that have ever withheld information from one another. Like it's always like, hey, like, everybody's always
Very
excited
cooperative,
to share, right?
Yeah.
That's what I felt about, which I love about the circle that we have in international casting. Like everybody's just, yeah,
Everyone's really close.
very
Like,
close,
I
yeah.
think that's why it's so fun to watch. Like
Yeah.
MLBB international cast too, because really, and maybe the viewers can feel this or not, but like you can tell that we're all friends.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like I would actually like spending time with each other outside of the game, outside of the work, because not every game is like that. You know, and we've heard those stories.
Exactly.
And I would say that the MLBB international casters, at least, I know there's variations of that group as a whole, but yeah, them as a whole, everyone's great friends.
For sure. Everybody, the host country casters will definitely be good hosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt like when I was in Indonesia, when I was in
Yep.
Malaysia. Which brings me to this question. What was, when you're casting in an international event, and you've been through a lot of places,
Yep.
and I'm just saying, okay, let's just limit this to the places that you've been as a caster, okay? Best place, best food so far. Best country cuisine
Best country cuisine.
so far that you've experienced. Obviously, let's not count Japan. You have not casted there yet, right?
we
So
can't.
Japan
Not
is
yet.
out of the. That may include Philippines if you want. If you have a certain bias to the Philippines.
Yeah.
As you're thinking, my answer, I'll give you my answer.
all right, give me your answer.
Indonesia. Yeah, interestingly, even when Malaysia has more diverse food,
Yeah.
oh man, Gideon
No.
and Amy is gonna kill me.
I was gonna say Malaysia.
Man, now I'm thinking about it. Maybe Malaysia. It may
Yeah.
be Malaysia.
It has to be Malaysia. I would be biased towards the Philippines too, but like since outside of the Philippines, like 100% Malaysia.
Man, okay, now I'm second guessing. Maybe Malaysia. What was your okay? Let's just say, yeah, I think Malaysia in general.
Yeah. Like they have their own version as well of like nasi lemak,
Yeah.
right? But they have different versions of that. But like something that was so good just recently, actually, when we were there to shoot the video for M6 format, it was like, and it's not my favorite, but it's it's really good. It's salted, what was it? Salted egg butter chicken, like nasi lemak or something like that.
Oh, I see.
Something along those lines. It was so good that Mirko and I ordered two. Like it was so good that we just ended up ordering two.
Oh, that's nice.
And big shout outs to, of course, Gideon and Amy, because Gideon, Amy, Rose, and JJ, I think JJ is his name. They brought us there and introduced us to that place. And I was like, dude, this place is so good that I would come back here.
Man, makes me rethink actually. No, I want to retract that. It's probably although I've stayed more in Indonesia and I've tasted a lot of good food in Indonesia.
Sorry, I forgot to shout out LaFell. LaFell as well. LaFell.
Yeah. Man, I think it should probably be Malaysia. I love the bakute that I tried there.
Oh, yeah.
Unforgettable.
Bakute.
We'll fly to Malaysia just for that particular meal in that particular shop that I went to. And then I also tried stingray in Malaysia. It was great. I had a lamb curry as well,
Yeah.
and laksa is also great
Oh,
in Malaysia.
laksa.
Man,
Malaysia wins, man.
Malaysia wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Indonesia very close. Bali, Indonesia.
I have not gone to Bali, dude. This
Oh,
is a
yeah.
place that I have been wanting to go
Okay,
to.
that's a great contender to Malaysia. I would say.
Bali.
Yeah, Bali.
Do you think I should take a solo trip out to Bali?
Yeah, everybody has to.
Everybody has to.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, I have.
Yeah. So you have to take a solo
Yeah, I have
trip
to. Yeah,
How
but yeah,
can you
we all have to. We have to experience the Bali.
as a solo trip,
Yes, as a
Or with
solo trip
friends?
with friend. Uh,
which
as
is
a
better.
vacation,
Okay.
vacation, as a getaway, not for work.
Okay.
Yeah, and enjoy the food. No, the only criticism I have with Bali and as well as Jakarta is that the amount of like the variations of food is not as big as Malaysia.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably why. Um, did enjoy Riyadh, although we mostly stayed in the hotel. Yeah, we had good
Yeah.
food there, but
They had
the
great
mall-
food, yeah.
Yeah, they had great food. Where else did I? What was the mall? China was also great.
Is that when you guys went for the? Was it? It wasn't Sea Games. Was
Yeah,
it?
it was Asian
Sea
Games.
Asian Games. That's right.
China's food was also crazy, but I think yeah, Malaysia wins. I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Malaysia's gotta be
right.
the one.
the place to be. So far, what's the best best and most enjoyable rank game?
Ranked game.
Yeah. And enjoyable means many different things. For example, Miracle, I think he enjoyed in the Philippines because
Oh, you're talking about ranked server?
yeah.
I thought you were asking me what's my most memorable
Oh, yeah,
ranked game. Okay.
No, like the best place to
Play ranked.
play ranked. Most enjoyable.
Ooh.
And enjoyable might mean different things for
Okay.
different people.
Enjoyable, I would have to say. I would say actually probably Indonesia.
Indonesia, okay.
Enjoyable because it's actually a challenge.
Oh.
Like, like it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
like Philippines is still the best ranked games, I think, but like I've tried ranking in every place that I've gone to, and I just remember like you can hard carry. So if you find that being
Yeah.
fun, for me it's not because my teammates were literally like brain dead. Like it felt like they were like bots. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
But I
get
don't
what
like
you
to
mean.
play like that. Like I
Yeah.
want a competitive game. And
Yeah.
so I think the time that I was in Indonesia, I was like, yeah, I actually played rank like almost every day there. Because if I
Cool.
play rank in a place that either has high ping because the server issues that they have, or the teammates are just like you're like, huh? Like what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's not fun for me.
All right. Okay. So far, where are the best fans at? And this is from a caster's perspective. Like obviously, you feel the crowd when you're there, right?
Yeah.
It may be small, it may be big, depending on like which part of the world that you've casted felt like they are the most passionate fans.
Ooh, that's
Because for me, that is easily Indonesia. For me,
is it Indo? Yeah.
For me, I haven't been back back in Malaysia. Malaysia might have the more intense fans now because of the growth that
They've
happened in
had,
that region.
yeah.
But I remember back in M1. Well, it was the first M series, so it wasn't that big of a deal yet. So I cannot compare that. But so far, when it comes to like comparing it to the Philippines, Indonesia was crazy.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with Indonesia. Indonesia definitely like they get into every single match, but I almost like I wish it was this way, but like when the Philippines for M5, when we were in like the later portion of M5, when we were in Jose Rizal
Yeah.
Stadium, the fans were awesome there.
I agree.
That
I
was amazing because, and as a caster from caster perspective, we were right in the middle of it, so we got to experience like that energy. I would say though, like the Philippines lacks in like regular season stuff and whatnot. Like there's certain team
okay.
fans that are really
Okay.
into it, and then there's certain fans that just you can't even get them to like cheer or stand up or do anything like when something cool happens. It really depends on the teams. So that's
Yeah.
not to knock on the Philippines. You know, they're just different as an audience, I would say. But M5 was amazing. Like I will say that the audience that was there,
especially.
grand final. Actually, that whole run
Oh, yeah.
when we were in Jose Rizal Stadium was like
the 3 days away.
yeah,
There.
all those Philippine fans, hell yeah. But in general, when it comes to like the general audience, I would say probably Indonesia. Like they
Yeah.
bring out like bands and everything else
Dude.
and drums and you know,
Indonesia was crazy.
yeah.
Unbelievable. So many stories. I wonder how you felt back in Riyadh because the thing is, we as casters didn't really feel the audience back then.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a time where you had a chance to hang out in the audience area, but
I did, yeah.
there, at least for me, there wasn't any time at all where I got to experience the, people watching.
Yeah.
But looking at the videos, whenever Philippine team is there, there are a lot of Filipinos, there are a lot of Malaysians.
Yep.
It felt like home. It was crazy. So how did it feel back in the actual arena for that one?
In EWC for MSC, the only time I got to watch in the audience was for the grand final because I wasn't casting that. So
Yeah.
it was pretty electric, I would say. Like both sides. I mean, we didn't even get to sit on the Philippine side because it was full, like really early on.
Yeah.
But they were going crazy, and even eventually the Malaysian side, like they weren't at the energy of the Filipino side there, but they were still like really into it. But I would say to hit on the point here too, that was one of the things that I didn't like about the EWC setup, and I get why it was like this.
Yeah.
Again, logistically, they had 3 games going on at one point. This is how it was set up.
Yeah.
But you really realize, at least as a caster, and the ability to bring some of the emotion into a game, you really depend on the energy from the audience. You know, and
Absolutely.
so for those that didn't know, us casters, we were in like a booth.
Yeah.
We were in a booth area. You guys on the analyst stand were also in a different area.
That's right.
So we were basically in separate areas. And when you're casting those games at MSC 2024, you're literally, it's just 2 guys, 2 casters in a box watching on their monitors.
It's just like a remote casting, but
But you're
that's
like,
remote.
yeah, but not online. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it wasn't something that I would want to make a norm. You know, like
Me too.
I
Me
would
too.
say that the casters, even the panelists, like,
yeah.
that's why M5 was so cool because, and even the previous M series, M5 was so cool because even the panelists were there. They were elevated.
Yeah.
But you guys could see the crowd and the energy and you could feel it.
Remember M4 when we did a lot of like content with Lafel? There was a time where people were getting interviewed, and because we were just around the area, there was a little banter. That was when the Malaysia X Wolf thing happened.
Yeah.
And even outside of that, there's a lot of like friendly banter, which was, I felt like was sort of missing during that time in
It
AWC.
took the human, kind of like the human element.
Yeah.
I felt like was missing in EWC as a caster.
That's right. It's just different, and I would suggest that organizers really think about it that way. And as a shoutcaster myself, I felt that it was a way. It was more storytelling and more hype and energy and emotion when you're just around the fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I think that we have talked much about shoutcasting in general. I wanted to ask you really, like, can you briefly summarize to us, like, what got you into casting? What were you before casting? And if you want a longer version of this, he's got a ton of podcast episodes that explains that. But yeah, for the sake of the viewers that will only get to catch you now, what have you been doing before shoutcasting?
Okay. If you guys want the longer version, I have a podcast called The Suecast that you guys can tune into. I'll be revitalizing that as well,
Nice.
or making a new one. I'm not sure. I might stick with that. But in short, without getting too crazy here, before I was into casting, I was a teacher. So I was a special education teacher here in the Philippines. I was actually teaching in Caloocan. Caloocan is where I was teaching. It was a private practice area, and I just worked one-on-one with students with special needs, and that ranged from ADHD, ADD, all the way to there's multiple disabilities, but even like autism and Down syndrome and everything else, teaching different things from the ages of 3, and I think my oldest student at the time was like 22.
Oh,
So that was what I did as a career for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Then pandemic happened, and like most people, kind of had to have a career shift.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because I was planning to go back to teaching, but the center had to shut down because the thing is once things started to open up again, they were still doing online, like for teaching and stuff, and you can't really do special ed like online. You really need to be hands-on.
Of course.
And so since that center closed down, I was forced to decide on what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, you know what? This is a time when Facebook streaming was really popping off, and I was like, dude, I play MLBB every day. I might as well try to be a streamer.
Yeah.
Actually, it was my friend that recommended it.
Yeah.
He's like, you're a really good gourd player. Like, why don't you just stream your gourd games,
Yeah. You're not a good gourd player. You're a top global gourd player, man.
At the time, I wasn't. I wasn't, though. I was just like gourd one-trick guy, and I was high-ranked, right?
Very well.
And he's like, you speak English, like you can't speak Tagalog. He's like, just try streaming in English. Maybe people will like it. So it's like, okay. And then that's what I did. Ended up streaming. And the whole time I streamed, I climbed the gourd rankings. That's when I eventually got Global 1.
I see.
Yeah, so I got Global 1. That's where I built my community from, the Sioux fam. Shout out to them. And that I was a full-time streamer for like 2 years, like making a good living monthly off streaming. I had very generous viewers, and I never got a partnership from Facebook like some of the streamers here did. I denied it, actually. I declined it. I didn't want to be forced to stream a certain amount of hours every month. I just didn't want that restriction on myself. So I stayed freelance. And then eventually, because I was making content from clips of streams, this was before even gaming TikTok videos were a thing. I was just, it was all dancing at the time. I was like, dude, I don't think they're going to care if I post gaming clips.
Yeah.
So I started posting gaming clips. And eventually, shout out to Butters. Butters is the one that saw one of my clips.
Cool.
And he just DM'd me and was like, have you ever thought about casting? And I was like, nope. And he's like, well, maybe you should. And then that's when caster search and all that stuff happened.
Yeah. That is why Naisou mentioned that his first shoutcasting gig was actually MPL itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously you had a very successful run at the caster search. That's why they got you. Did you ever feel that because this is a thing for like I'm sure you've done modeling, right? You did.
Yeah, I
so I'm
didn't
sure
mention
there
that
was
in the story.
Yeah, you did. You did it. No. What I was getting at, and I don't know if you're comfortable answering this, but there are some quote unquote like diversity picks, in casting, diversity casting, whatever. Just because you're a fam, you have the advantage. I personally feel that it wasn't that got you into shoutcasting because there were many foreign looking people that. Also auditioned at the caster search. Obviously, there was something that the panel of judges. I wasn't part of that because I can't remember.
Yeah, you weren't there, right?
I wasn't there. Can't remember why, but I wasn't there. Obviously, they saw something in you that got there. But was there a point in your shoutcasting career that you felt like, damn, maybe it was just because I'm Filipino American. I know you're not American.
Filipino American. Yeah.
I
mean, that's what I call. It's called Philam, but yeah, I'm Irish.
Irish. Yeah. So you're mixed race basically.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, you're white.
I'm white. I don't look Filipino at all.
Yeah. So, did that ever like cross your mind as a shoutcaster?
You know what? Like in the beginning, I did because again, I had no experience, man.
Yeah.
So I was like, in the beginning, I was like, they're just picking me because I got an American accent. And that's, I remember when Aislinn called me, and I even like mentioned that to her. I was like, you guys just need like a American accent or like American English or something on the desk or like, what's up? Because like to me, I had been watching the English desk anyway.
Yeah.
So I'd been watching those guys for the longest time. And I was like, they all sound good, like to me, you know what I mean? But like, part of it was like I knew that okay, the American English accent was part of it. I know that voice quality as well was like something like that there's that, but I just didn't have the foundation, I felt like. So those were what I was leaning on in the beginning. I was leaning on the fact that that's why I was chosen. But it became much more than that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think like, even if you just look at all the casters that have made it to like where we have been, there's something that makes them very unique. That's not just down to their casting capabilities.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
It's this whole package of something. And I think that's why you always kind of have, and that's why going back to my point earlier, I was like, you know, I spent my 2 seasons not really knowing who I was as a caster. Like, and to the new casters out there, like that's what you have to do. Like you can be influenced by someone, you can be inspired by a certain type of casting or whatever, but really you need to be, who am I like as a caster, and then what makes me unique? Yeah. Because there's so many casters that sound the same, or they do the same kind of, they try to emulate the same thing.
For sure.
And I would say that I'm very confident and comfortable like where I am as a caster now. If someone comes up to me now and says like, yo, can you be a little more like this or a little bit more like this? I literally just straight up say no. Like this is who that, like this is me, and this is the box that I fit as a caster. I'm willing to go, you know, maybe a little outside of it, like experience some new things, but after this time, like 3 years, this is who I am as a caster.
Yeah. I remember telling Manjin that when we were a little bit, when we were, I think, sophomores or juniors in the world of casting, like, so sometimes, you know, we're close enough that we share some of our fears when it comes to shoutcasting. And I believe that it also happened during M1 when he felt like his English wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, if you compare your English to other casters, yeah, sure. But they got you because you're Manjin. Because it was your personality. All you have to do is just translate it in English. Yeah. And that's what he did. I think he felt very comfortable in the latter portions of the playoffs. And then it went well eventually. And what I saw in you back, I remember this back in season 8. You have a surprisingly deep knowledge of MLBB in parts that you know of. Maybe it's not even just about the goals. You know MOBA so much. I think that's what I felt. Like even when you say that you're not that well versed with MLBB or with MLBB shoutcasting, but you were watching a lot of esports back then.
Yeah, I've always been a fan. And you know, I've like, let's be real. Most of us that play of MLBB played either Dota or League.
Exactly.
And so I came from League.
That's right.
You know, I was a big League of Legends player. I even went down this whole like amateur route and almost went pro here in the Philippines for it. So
yeah, that's what I felt like. What's underrated about you back then was obviously people will just say, yeah, no, it's just a white guy with an American accent. But you make a lot of sense in the broadcast desk. Which I think that's what eventually, you know, our bosses found, probably. Yeah. Yeah. And then you found your voice. I always say that you just have to be very patient about looking for your own voice. At the same time, like you said, don't mimic. Make them a peg, but don't copy them, you know?
Yeah, don't copy them. I think that's a big thing.
All right. So we're at the last few parts of our podcast that went... I initially wanted this to be 1 hour. I told myself that when I get back to podcasting, I would limit it to 1 hour, but...
We're yappers, man.
We're yappers, man.
This is what we do.
Whatever. Just, I'm sure some people like longer formats. Yeah. Some people like 1 hour. Sorry for those who only have like space for 1 hour, but this will be longer. Also, my next guest is not here yet, so we have a lot of time.
Okay.
Right. I included here because here's the thing, guys. When I'm looking for tips on taking care of myself, be it physically, mentally, and financially as well, Naisou is one of the very first people that I would always seek advice from. And that's just how he just knows his stuff, you know. Do you have any I don't know, top of your head, any of those must do to take care of yourself? You know, like what is the biggest tip that you'll ever give to all of the gamers out there who's watching us?
biggest tip, if I had to like say one, would
One or two, or I don't know. Yeah.
I think initially for anybody, like gamers or not, man or not, women, all there, however you identify, is to take care of your health. Like take care of your body. I'm a big proponent in people being physically. You don't even need to be like a bodybuilder or anything, but like just take care of your physical health.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is because I think that it really does translate into your work. Like if you look good, you feel good, and then you perform good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's all connected, and most people can do that by simply just literally going outside and walking. Because a lot of people nowadays, like they just sit, or they're sitting at a 9 to 5, or like sitting on their desk or whatever. And so I just mean like the small steps, like going on a walk every day. Or, if you can go to the gym, great. If you can't afford a membership, then do home workouts. You don't have to have a gym membership,
Yeah.
So I think number one is, definitely take care of your physical health. The older that I get, it's even more important. I'm in my 30s now. So it's like, that's number one on like my priority.
Yeah.
And aside from that, like other than just taking care of your physical health is taking care of your mental health, man.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think that's taking care of your mental health is huge nowadays, especially.
It's that's very difficult to track. Like, for example, physical health, you probably won't feel the symptoms as early as you would, but generally you will feel something like you're more tired today, your headaches happen, or difficulty with breathing. Mental health is difficult to track, however.
Yeah, it is.
That's even for me, when eventually I had the chance to talk to you and Mara, for example, you guys are very much aware of your mental health. You notice stuff that I generally will not be able to notice, and by that time it may be too late. And this might happen for many people, So is there any general like
advice for mental health?
For like, how do you know that you are not in a good shape mentally? What's some general signs here? Or do you just feel like do you just take it in? Do you just approach it in a way, right?
Yeah.
Even when I'm not feeling anything, I have to like look at it. I have to take a look at it, no matter what, even if I'm not feeling any symptom or whatnot.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised at like how mental health, or like having a negative mental health state, can creep up on you. So number one, I would say, is really just working on self-awareness, man. Like, you got to be self-aware enough to be able to realize like you're kind of not in the best mental shape right now. And I think and this is all connected once again to physical wellness, like physical health, because when you lift weights, for example, and you go through that whole journey of lifting weights, you become very self-aware with the muscles. There's a thing called mind-muscle connection.
Yeah.
You become very self-aware of how your body is feeling and how it works after, a workout or not. And that's already the building blocks of like self-awareness. Eventually that evolves into, again, like a mental state. And I think so the big thing is, if you are someone that like, you're like, how do I even know if I'm, not feeling good mentally or not? Number one, I would say most people, if you're finding yourself like locking yourself up in your, wherever your space is, if you're living alone or not, and you're not taking care of your body, you're not taking care of your skin, you're barely going outside, you're just staying inside watching, anime all day or whatever you're doing, that's probably not the most healthy way to live your life.
Okay.
Eventually, most people will hit a low.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I think all of us have at least been at that point.
Yeah.
Or some people are getting there now. And that's the next thing, is like being able, and it's all, that's why I said my number one was physical health and wellness, because when you get to that point, you build certain habits and character traits through taking care of your body.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it applies, and the trickle effect in the rest of your life happens. So when you do hit that low and you realize like, oh crap, I'm not as good mentally as I'm doing, then you have like the tools that you need to be like, okay, I'm actually going to pick myself up and do something. Because no one, honestly, there's this quote, no one cares about your life as much as you do.
Sure.
Like, again, no one cares as much as about your life as you do or as you should.
As you should. Yeah.
And so if you really want to change whatever circumstance you're in, no one's going to do that for you.
Yeah.
No partner, no sibling, no family member. Like it's really only you. And so it just takes some people certain lows or certain events in their life to get to that point. And no one, you never know when it's going to happen.
Whew, man, I wish I could go back to some parts of my life where I should have been aware more. But for all those who are thinking about taking care of yourself and looking to live a better life, it's not much to kind of just be more self-aware. Yeah.
One other thing to add to that about pretty much you have to take care of your own stuff. Like stop looking for other people to do it for you. Because I think that's why there's a lot of these relationships, friendships,
Preach!
Everything. Yeah. Like people look for whatever they're missing in their life to be filled up by someone else. And realistically, like this is a whole journey in yourself where you find out that, only you can give yourself what you're missing, or like you're the only one that can give you the love that you need. So I think that's a big thing. And it took me a long time to learn that, man. Like it took me, like I said, I'm in almost my mid-30s. So it took me a while to find that out.
Yeah. It's and especially for Filipinos, I think we're naturally drawn because of all the stuff that we've grown with, like our telenovelas, your soap operas, the news, family dynamics as well. We are designed to really depend on someone.
Yeah.
And end of the day, you just have to really take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first, and eventually you'll be able to take care of someone else or be taken care of by someone else. But it all starts with taking care of yourself. Yep. And it's more self-awareness. I think we can have a whole different podcast for that, right?
Yeah, I think
probably.
so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hope you're down for your third episode in this podcast eventually in the future.
I'm going to have you on mine again.
Yeah, very well. Okay. Part of the many things that I'm very much amused by Mr. Naisou himself is how good you are with your finances, right?
Okay.
Yeah, compared, that's the thing, right? Compared to, especially when there was a time when you were new to casting, but you were managing your finances way better than most of us do. Because that's the thing for a typical Filipino, especially for me who grew up poor. Because I grew up poor. Usually, what happens is what they call the revenge, where you're or something like healing your inner child whatsoever, something related to that. Where if you eventually get the money, you eventually spend it.
Yeah.
Maybe get 10 guitars, or something like that. But again, there was a phase in my life where I was financially irresponsible, where I would like get the expensive stuff. This one, the collection that I have, I made sure that it's like just I think there was this like 10% of your savings or whatnot.
Yeah,
like actual savings, not earnings, basically. And the thing with guitars is at least I can sell them anytime. Same value.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
They're collectibles.
Yeah. So, for example, I did not dive into sneakers.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they're not for me. I cannot sell them equal amount. At least with guitars. That's the thing with guitars. Like watches, for example, or gold. Although they look fancy and stuff, you can probably like sell them. Yeah. So, is there any financial advice that you will give to people in the esports space? Because esports people, when you're a gamer, you get this beautiful skin that's announced. It's like limited edition.
Yeah.
You earn enough to get it, and then you'll eventually get it. You're happy.
Yeah.
2 years after, they are going to release an even better skin. The same character, and this happened to me with Dota 2 with MLBB. and with Valorant. That's why in the past year I stopped spending on skins actually, because eventually they're just gonna come up with something better.
Something new, yeah.
So that's one of the advice that I can give to young people out there. Be careful what you spend, especially on skins. But yeah, but for you specifically, now that you're in the Philippines, you're from a different culture, I guess. American culture might be different.
I have both because I mean both influences.
So yeah, what's a good financial advice you can give to kids nowadays?
Number one, like if it was kids, if it was the younger generation right now, honestly, I would say learn something with AI.
What?
Like educate yourself in AI. Like if you're gonna go like kids, and the reason why I'm saying that is because AI is gonna be such a big part of our lives.
Okay.
And I think AI. That's why I said kids, like young people right now, because AI is going to be a big part of their lives by the time they're adults.
Yeah.
And if they know how to use it and are technical enough to use it, then they'll have good careers because it's going to affect every career, even the esports career. AI is going to play a part in that. So I would say like educate yourselves on AI. Now that's just a general thing.
Okay.
Financially though, in general, I would say, and I'm going to connect it back to why I learned so many things through taking care of my body and like lifting weights and all that stuff, because even working out is delayed gratification. And you can take that principle and apply it to finances. I think you said you went through a time where you were really bad with your money and you were healing your inner child and you're spending money. I have done the same thing. Yeah. And even now in this part of my life, I still can have a tendency to do that. But for example, let's say you want a new computer, right? Are you going to go and buy it right now? Or are you going to take out a bunch of loans because you don't actually have enough cash to get it? Exactly. And you're thinking, oh, it's 0% interest, all this stuff. Or are you going to wait a year, save up a little bit of percentage of your income every time to then next year buy that PC? Yeah, that's delayed gratification, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that I had to learn to apply to my finances, especially in the fact that when it comes to the point where you're not earning a steady paycheck every month, you really have to be able to manage the stuff that you need and the stuff that you want, and the stuff that you actually want to do in life. And I think this is also just a problem, man, is like we compare ourselves like way too much to like social media.
Yeah,
and, like,
so much.
And
so
I think that
man.
causes so many issues, not just with us personally, but even in relationships and everything else. Like people get very caught up in, trying to compare where they are to these other people. And then honestly, at this point, you don't even know if the people posting all their shit on social media is actually even true. Like some of the people that are flexing like these cars and stuff that, they own this, they own that, they're just renting it, or it's someone else. You know what I mean? So like there's that whole thing. And that's why a big part of me gaining control of my finances was not trying to keep up with that rat race anymore, or that race of like, oh, here's a new gadget, I need it. Here's a new thing, I need it. You know what I mean? Like, I am not going to say that I am completely not a materialistic person. I have learned to enjoy certain material items and things, but I also know that, again, I work in percentages at this point. This took me a while to get to this point. I used to also be a person that I'd get paid, I'd spend it. Yeah. I used to be like that too. But also I can say that I learned how to handle money probably at a much younger age than most people, and that I give up to my dad. My dad, I grew up basically, I would say like almost like middle class. I would just say middle class, or maybe low middle class in U.S. terms. Yeah. So just to put that in perspective, but it's not like I had all the new things growing up or anything like that. My dad didn't treat it like that. So I learned to really appreciate work and money, because at a young age, we had to do things like, at that time it was chores around the house in order to get our allowance. Cool. We didn't just get money from my dad. Cool. We had to do stuff to get paid allowance. And then I got my first job when I was 14.
And this is normal for like
This is normal
for
for
US.
most people in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get your first job, maybe even younger, like 10 to 14, like
Yeah.
mowing lawns or something like that. You
Yeah.
know, doing something similar like that. But I got my first official job at 14, and so I learned how to handle money at a younger age. But I was still in the sense of like I'd get a paycheck spend.
Yeah.
The big thing though is they don't teach enough financial education, even in the U.S. So I'm sure they don't teach it here in the Philippines that much, you know. And so generally, I would just say, really, there's so much free material, man. Like if I can give one stable advice to the general people out there, just educate yourself. You have time.
Yeah.
Like there's so much free resources on financial
I agree.
things. There's videos, there's podcasts, there's TikToks if you want shorter content, there's reels. There's so much good information on handling your finances that I wish that when I was younger I had, because I didn't. And my 20s with money were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so right now it would simply be something very simple. Go educate yourself. Like if you really want to learn about money and stop being poor, there's so much free content to just learn how to handle your money.
Great advice, actually. And I hope that you stumble upon like good advice, though.
Yeah.
Just be worried about like bad advice. Because there is.
Be able to discern between good and bad
that's right.
advice.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're at this point where I always ask like people on my podcast, especially when they are part of the MLPB community, to craft their MPL dream team. All right.
Okay.
Do you at least have your MPL dream team right now? I mean, it could change from time to time, but
Is this like all players from around the world?
so I
or
always
MPL?
say like, yeah, you can get it from anywhere, and you can even say like, I don't know, like a specific era, like Oh My Venus of season 7, or something like H2 of season 6,
Okay.
or Rebo of season 2 or 1, or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a dream team, so you can craft it as you wish.
All right. I'm going to start with my mid laner because that's what I am.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the only guy to have played 500 games in the MPL.
Oh,
And that's Few.
phew.
Yeah. Few's the GOAT.
He's my goat.
Yeah. Few's the GOAT. So I'm going to put Few mid lane. Jungle. Oof. I got to go with Kyrie. I still got to
Okay.
go with Kyrie. I've been a Kyrie stan forever.
M4 Hayabusa.
And for like, how's Kyrie doing now? Like, I haven't actually caught many of the games.
So they struggled in the early seasons, but during the early stage of the season, but reportedly in the last week of the regular season, they're apparently back, and also reportedly Philippine teams cannot win against them anymore in scrims. Like they just get utterly destroyed.
Yeah.
Apparently, so
we have and we have so many impressive junglers here. Like I love King Kong. I love King Kong when he first made his debut in TNC.
Titsy, yeah.
You know, but Kyrie fan since day number one. Like when I first started watching. So Kyrie in the jungle. Let's go to our Rome for that mid lane trio. For Rome, man, for Rome, I'm gonna have to just say I got to go with my boy Ogwin.
Ogwin, okay. So
Yeah.
Ogwin, Few, Kyrie.
Ogwin, Few, Kyrie. Actually, damn, that's hard because like I've been loving Renegade too lately from Aurora, but I'll go with Ogwin because I think he's still like one of the most consistent.
Okay.
Let's see, Gold Lane. And these are mostly Filipinos, man. So
Yeah,
I'm just,
no, it's
aside from
okay.
Kyrie, well, Kyrie's Filipino, but he's an Indo. Gold Lane, I got to go with Kelra.
Yeah.
I think Kelra is just like, I don't even know, man. Like, is Kelra in his prime right now? Like, he's so good.
Yeah.
And that, so it was so close for me for so long. Like, still, like, you know, Super Marco and the likes up there. But I think it was week 7 or week 8 when I was just like, holy shit, Kelra is so good. And I remember a lot of people's reactions were like that with what he was doing, like his positioning and everything. And I know we call him the gold standard, and there's a reason why.
Yeah.
You know, he is, but definitely, yeah, Kelra for the gold lane. XP. Oh, XP.
Kelra, Few, Ogwin, Kyrie. Dream teams are always difficult.
XP's really. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the goat, the goat Milo, just as a joke.
Yeah.
No, I'm just.
Of course. I mean, like if it's part of your dream team.
No, it's not. No offense to Milo.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get the door because I think midnight's here.
All right.
300k isa. Baryo lang sa'yo yun. So, for everyone who's watching right now, the next set of guests came here. And yeah, they're all. This is how unorganized the HG podcast is, and I love it that way. So,
We love it that way.
Yeah.
Is this a raw cut? Are we not cutting?
No, we're not cutting.
All right, no
All right.
raw cut.
Is your camera okay? Did I? Can you see?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay. Still okay?
I think so.
No, I mean like.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
So
yeah.
my last answer.
Yeah.
XP Lane.
Yeah.
Sanford.
Sanford.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So that's
Why?
Sanford.
Why is that interesting?
I think they're. Oh yeah, we have. I thought that you were just choosing all of the
AP
very
bred?
young for the young ones, you know.
No.
Yeah, but they're. Well, few is there. So you have one veteran. You're okay. Kyrie's technically.
Kyrie's kind of a veteran at this point.
Oh,
isn't he?
you're right.
Yeah, Kyrie's a veteran at this point.
You're right. Yeah. So that's a very strong one. Do you want a 6-man, for example? Like usually, some people would get a utility jungler in as a 6-man, so that when a patch like that happens, at least you have your backup.
If I had to get a backup jungler, no, they can't because they're both assassin users. No, I'm happy with the 5.
Oh, happy with a 5.
Yeah.
Very well. All right. So, do you have a coach in mind for the? Oh no,
Coach Wolf,
come
baby.
on, no man, no, seriously.
Coach Wolf. Coach,
All right.
Wolf, I'm still gonna put you there.
Okay.
Shout out to all the coaches out there, but I'm putting Coach Wolf with my
Man.
dream team
Okay.
because you got it.
Honor is mine. Thank you. All right. This is always the last question that I ask for everyone that's involved in the MPL space. What do you think makes a great player?
A great player. Ooh, okay. What makes a great player? I think someone that isn't just great in the game, but like great outside of the game too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think if you think of any of the greatest players right now for MLBB, they all had some form of an impact outside of the game of MLBB. And I think most people off the top of their heads, they're going to think like, oh, my Venus.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally had a lasting impact globally, I would say.
Yeah.
Like that kind of reach is what makes these players great. So obviously not just down to like their mechanical skill and like the ability to work with a team, whatever that be, but I think also just being some type of signature or a symbol of something greater than the game outside of the game is really that influence, I would say.
That's why I've always felt like Few is my goat, and I've already talked about this many podcasts before. It's essentially like the epitome of being a great pro player, where you're not part of any bad issue or no altercation whatsoever. Great family guy, very quiet about it. It's actually getting married soon.
Yeah,
with his longtime girlfriend.
Long time, yeah.
They started, I think, MPL Season 1, which is crazy if you think about it. So, that's what makes Few a great contender for the GOAT as well. And I agree with you. Now, there's a bonus question because you're also part of the shoutcasting team. What makes a great shoutcaster?
What makes a great shoutcaster? Oh. I think there's so many ways that you can actually look at that, like for a great caster, great shoutcaster. Also, just because like that's something I always say too. Like, there's different shoutcasters. Like, we have different roles.
Right.
We have different. You know what I mean? Like,
I think just in general, it's going to be the same thing. Like, they're great at whatever their role is. Like, they've mastered it. They continue to work on it. Like, I don't think anyone's ever like just got it all. So as long as that caster is continuously educating themselves and becoming better, even if it's like, you know, minor improvements, I think that's part of it. But also just they do more than just be a shoutcaster. Like, it's whatever impact they have outside of shoutcasting. And that's why I also like to the casters out there that really work with like a community or have a community and they give back in that form or another. Or let's say they are advocates of something that's greater than the game that they're casting.
Yeah.
And I think this just generally goes to like just being a great person in general. So it's more or less the same. Like, I think that quality or that standard is the same between being a great player, being a great shoutcaster. It just sums up as like, how do you be a great person?
Yeah. And you just happen to be a shoutcaster. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, all good things happen to good people, I would say. And, well, bad things also happen to good people.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. And yeah, Naisou, where can we see you in the next few months or so? Like, is there anything you want to promote or want people to tune into?
Well, tune into the MPL Philippines playoffs. It's happening in a couple days. I don't know if this will probably be out by the time it's done.
I want to do it. I want to post this tonight. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but at the latest tomorrow. So
okay, so MPL Philippines finals or the playoffs and everything else. Tune into that. After that, also I invite you guys to watch the World Esports Championship. That's ISF's championship.
Oh, yeah. Is this the one with Team Seaball as well?
Yeah. So that's RQ
Kaito, yeah.
That'll be in Riyadh again.
Cool. Okay.
And then
when is that? When is that happening?
November.
Okay.
Mid-November.
Okay.
Like mid-November. Invite people to come watch M6 if they can. Obviously, watch it in person. I would say I think early bird tickets are already sold out. So if you can grab a ticket, I think that's also going to be a pinnacle event because it's like full circle, right?
Yeah.
And other than that, you guys can just check me out on social media. Naisou, like at Naisou, will find me on anything. And I will also be bringing back the podcast.
Great.
So that'll happen. Spotify as well. Right now, it's just the Sucast, but we might rebrand or do something new. So other than that, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Naisou. And we've lasted almost 2 hours, and I hope that you're still with us. And I'm very happy that you guys have stayed until this point because, again, this is the first episode of the HG podcast after a very long time. And I'm happy that it went.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, always. And let's finish that bottle with our new guests incoming. So thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. We have audience now.
Let's go.
Bye.
1, 2.